Deception Island, Antarctica. Amy crouched by the Zodiac inflatable boats that were used for shore excursions. What was Dr. Jeff doing? It looked like he was taking a Zodiac by himself. That didn't make sense. Ian had said he was being escorted to the island. Amy pressed herself back against the ship as Dr. Jeff looked around carefully, then threw a duffel into the Zodiac. Dan and Ham emerged from the passageway, and she frantically signaled them to join her. "He's taking off without an escort," Amy murmured. "We went to Zimmer's cabin looking for him, but he never showed up," Dan said. Dr. Jeff attached a hook to a Zodiac and lowered it down into the water. Then he clambered over the side onto the ladder. Amy heard the motor start a moment later. She opened a nearby supply closet and slipped into a parka. "What are you doing?" Dan asked. She shoved her feet into boots. "Following him. He's got to be up to something. Come on." Dan and Hamilton quickly grabbed parkas and boots. Ham lowered the Zodiac into the gray water and they climbed in. Dr. Jeff was already a speck heading toward the island. Amy started up the motor. She kept the speed low, tracking Dr. Jeff, who didn't look back. "This is fun. I think my eyeballs are freezing," Hamilton remarked. They skimmed through the ice floes, drawing closer and closer to the island. Out on the water, the wind was stronger, sending icy particles against their skin. Now, Amy could see the cheerful penguins waddling on the beach and clustered in groups on ice floes. They looked so awkward and funny on land, but as they belly flopped on ice and slid into the water, they turned into torpedoes of power and speed. Amy wiped snow out of her eyes. She tried not to think of the ticking minutes, tried to focus on keeping Dr. Jeff's boat in sight. She felt in the pocket of the parka and found a wool hat. She pulled it on, down to her eyebrows. The Zodiac bumped along the water, sending freezing spray back at them as she zigzagged, keeping the cliffs and bergs between them and Dr. Jeff's boat. "Deception Island is an old whaling center," Dan said over the noise of the engine. "The harbor is a caldera. You know, a collapsed volcano? Don't worry, the volcano hasn't erupted since the 60s. Destroyed the Chilean stations completely. And the British." "That's encouraging," Ham said. "Once we get past that point, we'll go through the Narrows and be in a kind of horseshoe-shaped harbor." The rocks loomed ahead in a palette of browns and blacks, now painted with the purest white snow. As the Zodiac rounded a rock formation, the bay appeared, curled around the black, volcanic sand. Amy slowed the engine and hugged the rocks as she turned into the Narrows. Across the churning gray waters, Dr. Jeff was beaching the boat. He shouldered his duffel and walked up the shore. In a few minutes, he had disappeared through the whirling snow. "He's probably headed up the beach toward the station," Dan guessed. "Let's follow him." Amy steered toward the beach, keeping well away from Dr. Jeff's landing. They pulled the boat up on the shore. The wind drove the wet snow against any exposed skin. It made it uncomfortable to walk, but at least the weather provided good cover. Inquisitive penguins waddled toward them, their wings outstretched for balance. Chinstrap penguins, Dan noted. See the line on their necks? Dr. Jeff told me about them while we explored the ship. He was a nice guy. I hate it when a good guy turns into a bad guy. They raced up the beach. They could see Dr. Jeff's blue parka in the distance. There were no trees to hide behind, but ahead they saw abandoned buildings and old rusting tanks dotting the landscape, some 6 or 7 stories tall. Whaling station, Dan said. That's where they boiled the carcasses for oil. Look, you can still see whale bones on the beach. It's creepy, Amy said, thinking of the magnificent creatures she'd seen breaching off the ship. It's like we're on Death Beach. Let's hope not, Dan muttered. They moved from tank to tank, trying to keep Dr. Jeff in sight. It was soon clear that he was heading to the new structure, a bright blue station that was perched on metal stilts. They walked closer, skirting an abandoned wooden building, the timbers sunk in sand. The skeleton of a whaling boat lay splintered nearby. Amy stopped. There was just an expanse of sand between them and the station. If we keep going, he'll see us, she said. Do you think there are people in the station? There are only summer stations on this island, Dan said. They could be gone. I heard the staff saying the scientists are starting to clear out for the winter. Doesn't look like there's any activity around, Hamilton said. Then what is he doing here? Amy murmured. If we make a run for it, we can get underneath the station while he's opening that door, Hamilton suggested. Once he's inside, he won't be able to see us. He's going up the stairs. We might make it. As soon as he started up the stairs, they dashed toward the station. But when they were halfway across the snow, Jeff turned, as if he felt their presence. Okay, we blew it, Amy said, putting on a smile and waving. Time to bluff our way out of this. The 3 of them trudged toward the dwelling as Dr. Jeff headed down the stairs toward them. What are you doing here? He asked. His welcoming smile was tight and annoyed. We didn't want to miss out on anything, Amy answered, injecting a cheerful note in her voice. She was well aware of their isolation, of the fact that no one on the ship knew where they were. Still, she had Dan and Hamilton, and she felt confident that they could overpower Dr. Jeff if they had to. We took a Zodiac out, and we saw you on the beach. You took a Zodiac out alone? He asked, frowning. You couldn't have swiped out since you're stowaways. That could be dangerous. The weather is worsening. You took a big risk. You should go back to the ship right now. I'm just here to collect krill data. The crew has already left for the winter. We'd rather hang with you, Amy said. Then we can go back together. He looked displeased, but he hitched his bag higher on his shoulder and nodded. I'm supposed to do the final close of the station. Come on.